All right, what's up, guys? Coach Tyler here. I'm gonna do a quick little subcast. I finally got my HD camera working back right again. I was trying to do that for you last time, and I just couldn't. I couldn't get the video to come out properly. So here we are. We got this HD cam working. It looks good. So if you see me looking at over here, I'm actually looking at my computer screen. It's got all my recording stuff on here. So if I'm not looking over here, I'm looking at my computer. I apologize. I'm not trying to be rude about that. I woke up this morning. And it's not too far from me waking up. And when this video goes up, you're going to be like, oh man, you were up at or you got up at 1 a.m. No, or 1 p.m. It's like, no, I didn't get up at 1 in the afternoon. I was up earlier. It takes time for these things to upload. And anyway, I digress here. So I woke up and I was getting up and I was doing all these things. I was doing laundry and I was listening to a video because I love listening to little videos and stuff like that while I'm doing things. It helps pass time by, and it helps give me ideas sometimes. And I was watching a video of someone I'm subscribed to on YouTube, and it was a video called Why Being Uncomfortable is the Best Feeling. And I remembered, Coach Purdy and I, when we're in the wrestling room with our guys, we always tell them, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's a very important saying that people need to learn, and especially when it comes to wrestling. So, for instance, I'm going to use two quotes here, one from Coach Purdy, one from Kyle Snyder. You do need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And the reason being is, here's from Kyle Snyder, is, yeah, wrestling's hard. If you're in the wrestling room, I think you know that. Any of my guys watching, any coaches out there, anyone who's ever been, who even wrestled a season, it's not easy. It takes a lot of work. It's not comfortable. It hurts. You're always constantly getting things tweaked on, and that's just wrestling. That's how it has to be. The reason you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable is because when you wrestle a season, especially around NCAAs, we've told our guys this, and we hope it sticks. There's a difference between being hurt and injured, and a lot of guys get hurt, but they're not necessarily injured. And being hurt's just like small things that when you go into NCAA tournament, I would bet about 85 to 90% of those guys are hurt in some way, whether it be their knee. Like, you looked at Yanni Diakomahalis. He hurt his knee during the tournament, and he still finished it out. I mean, you have people jam fingers, broken fingers, tweaked wrist, stuff like that. I mean, you have to be comfortable wrestling with stuff like that. It's just a part of the sport, and a lot of guys nowadays, especially for those who don't understand, who've never experienced that stuff, it is scary at first, but you have to get used to it. Another reason being is I've already made a video about success, and sorry guys, I'm looking outside. My dog's outside, and I'm watching her, making sure she's staying in the yard. But yeah, I made the video about success, and so everyone knows the laws of physics. You should know the first one. It's for every reaction, there's an equal opposite reaction. I think that's the first one. Don't quote me. But basically, if you're willing to put in this amount of suffering for something, and you're good at being uncomfortable at this level, that means at some point you're gonna have an inverse, which would be more up instead of inverse is like a negative. If you're able to manage being uncomfortable at this point right here, you're only going to have a higher ceiling of how far you can go, because you're willing to push through that extra pain. You're willing to push through that extra hour, maybe get a couple more miles in running than your opponent at the state finals. And that can be the biggest deal when it comes to the finals. When you're wrestling off with the guy at state, and he might have taken 20 more shots than you at practice, and you decided, I'm going to go home early. That could have been the difference. Those 20 shots, he could have found out something that when he gets stuffed, that he knows an adjustment to make to finish it off. And that's what, yeah, I mean, you have to get used to pushing your body to its absolute limits at times. And especially it's hard for guys when you get to high school, and you'll know this, you'll be experimenting with different things as far as like stuff in the wrestling room. And you'll feel like you're kind of either regressing. You'll be like, I'm actually getting worse, and it's not the case. For instance, I've got a little chart here that I'm going to show you, and it's all about perspective. So here's this chart, and you see as it goes, you go up, you're getting better, and then all of a sudden you feel like these weird decreases. You're going down, and you can't really explain that. You're like, oh man, I suck. I'm not getting any better. I'm getting worse, and it's all about perspective. You're just seeing that small little section, and I'm going to show that in a second. You're showing a small little section, and you got to think of it as, so if you're a sophomore, say sophomore, junior, about 3 or 4 years ago, think about where you were at then. Just imagine, you might not be able to hit this high crotch perfectly, but about 3 years ago, you didn't know what a high crotch was, period. You couldn't even hit a single leg properly. So that's where this next chart comes in. So if you look at this one right here, and I'm doing this on the back of my NCAA brackets. I'm not good at editing yet, so I'm drawing it out. So if you look right here, this is what you were seeing. You were seeing this small, here we go. You were looking at this small little section, and you were ignoring everything else. You're ignoring all that incline. You're going to have these ups and downs. I experience it. I still experience it, and it's hard for me to realize at times, but you have to take a step back. And I know in my failure video, I said you can't drive forward looking in the rearview mirror. But a wise man, I think it was Steve Jobs, said it. Sometimes you have to look back, and you can only connect the dots when you're looking back. So, don't dwell on looking back, but at the same time, you can look back and be like, man, 3 years ago, I couldn't hit a single leg, and now I'm here, and I'm learning how to hit, these solid high crotches, or I'm learning how to do, lat drops and stuff like that. It's all about that perspective of, not focusing on this small portion of where you're at and focusing on the bigger picture. And that's just, it is difficult, and you have to train yourself to do it, but it is key. So yeah, I'm going to try to wrap this up because I'm getting close to like 7 minutes, and I'm trying to keep this subcast kind of short. But yeah, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Some people develop it later on in life. I'm kind of one of those people. It took me a while to develop it, but I love being uncomfortable. It's a matter of fact, it shows that I'm human. I love when things kind of hurt a little bit. It's more fun. It's more interesting, and it's also I take it as a challenge now, and that's what you should look at it as. When you're in that wrestling room and you're trying to push yourself past that, say if you're trying to run a 7-minute mile, and you're pushing yourself, and you're like, man, this is really hard, and you think that you can't go any further, you keep going. Just keep pushing through that. Keep pushing that barrier, because it's only going to make you better. And also, you're going to find out a lot about yourself. You're going to find out where your true limits are. Not just your mental limits, because your mental limits they're very fickle. They're not going to be accurate at all. And that's the thing I love about wrestling and grappling in general to this day. When I roll with people in jiu-jitsu and at the gym and all that, or if I'm working with guys in the wrestling room, just a little 5-minute grappling session, you learn a lot about the person you're with. And I think that's why the bond between wrestlers is so strong, is because when you're wrestling with these guys, you know what they're made of. It's, just because whatever happens outside of that room, whatever they have or don't have outside of that room, everyone's equal on the mats. So when you're grappling with someone, you can see, are they mentally strong? Are they mentally weak? And a lot of those top tier wrestlers, everyone will tell you those guys are freaks. And a lot of the guys that we've told this story to, and it's the story of a Cornell wrestler. He was I think it was Cornell. I can't remember off the top of my head, but anyway, they were doing a test about how long can you sprint on this treadmill at the max incline, max speed. And everyone was getting 2 minutes, and then this one guy comes out there and he starts running, and he breaks that record. He smashes the 2-minute mark, and he's going on to 3. And then they say all of a sudden he just shoots right off that treadmill. He pushed himself till he literally passed out. Now, I can't even do that. A lot of people can't do that. But that's pushing that mental barrier. And I'm sure he was uncomfortable. I'm sure he was extremely uncomfortable. His heart's beating out of his chest. His vision's getting faded. But you have to be willing to push that hard. When you're out there, there's a movie called Win-Win. I recommend any wrestler go watch it. It's actually really good. It's got I'm not going to get to the people in it, but there's a scene where they're asking how he keeps getting up off bottom. Because he's exploding off bottom. They're like, well, what do you do when you're on bottom? He's like, and his thing is, I try to imagine that the person on top is trying to drown me. And so pretty much for him, being on bottom is now life or death. And you're going to do whatever it takes to survive a life or death situation. So get comfortable, pushing these mental barriers, pushing your physical barriers, really, sinking your heels in and going, because if you're able to withstand being more uncomfortable than your opponent, you are going to break him. Not even physically, but also mentally, because they're going to be wondering, how in the world have they not beaten you yet? So that's going to be my quick little subcast here. I'm going to send this to Coach Purdy. We're probably going to, he may do the editing for this one. If not, I might just upload it straight to the YouTube channel. Yeah, guys, I hope you watch this, and I hope you share it around. Not only wrestlers, because especially you young wrestlers, I really hope you guys watch this, but coaches, you guys can benefit from this too, as far as sending it out to your wrestlers. This is not only for Coach Purdy and our team. It's not only for, I don't want to say McCracken, but the Cerberus wrestling team. Let's go ahead and say that. It's not only for us. It's for everybody. We want to grow the sport. We want the sport to just blossom. Like, it's a wonderful sport, and we want to share it with everyone. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys. It's been real. #Wrestle6.